Have you ever wondered how to navigate through life after losing someone so dear? Well, join me today in a journey full of raw emotions, heartwarming stories, and valuable insight as Nubia shares her experience as a loving sister coping with the sudden loss of her brother. She goes from finding strengths in the darkest moments to really finding the resilience and the lights in some of those times. And together we're going to explore the highs, lows, and everything in between in trying to really understand the true meaning of life. So if you're ready to listen to this wonderful lady's story, let's get to it. Let's go. Mental Mobility Podcast. Thanks for coming out. Here we go.
I know I've always been a spiritual person, but now to experience in a different level, I'm in a position now where, of course, there's not a lot of people who think like me or have even experienced what I have experienced, or it's hard to really resonate. However, there's a lot of people that have experienced but have suppressed their experience because, again, the fear of judgment, not wanting to look like they're crazy. I experienced all of that in the beginning, and I knew right away to, take myself out from almost exposing this journey too much, because I didn't want the other voices kind of, derailing the journey because of the criticism or the judgments or just the not believing or whatever. Right. It wasn't their journey. It was mine. Right. So I needed to make sure that I was protecting my space. Right. Okay. And it was only till later on, even, even Matt is like a perfect example. It was really hard for him to comprehend a lot of the things. And he had a lot of his own fears. Right. That were projected on me. And of course, his mind was going, I don't want you to go through like what your brother went through. And that was a lot of his fears and all the things that I was saying. He's like, Nubia, like, honestly, like what you're saying, like, I hear you, but it's almost hard for me to comprehend and believe. But throughout the journey, like even my brother has given him little nudges to be like, I need you to be kind of like on board. Right. Like to be like, you need to support her. And it wasn't like force. Nothing was forced. It was like, he was going through these little experiences where he was like, okay, now after like almost a year of all this, Matt is going through his own healing journey. He's like he's finally in a position where he's like, I can't do this no more. You know that, when it comes to being an entrepreneur and all the things that you've done since you were, a kid, growing up, things that you did to escape certain realities, right? Things that have happened that you want to just consume yourself with something else to wipe away, pain and just things like that.
For sure.
So you condition yourself to do things. Right. And anytime something uncomfortable comes up, let me do that thing again. That's going to mask. Right.
Yes.
So it's just like a constant, and it gets to a point in everyone's life. That's why the whole midlife crisis thing is a thing, simply because people get to a point in their life where like, this is it. Right. Like this, like I go to work, I go to this is that. Like people are living a life of what they're supposed to be doing. Right? Not what they're truly feeling inside.
Very true.
That's where that soul searching kind of comes in. Is like people can go through any time in their life, but when you get a point where I do have, a decent job, I do have a family, I do have all these things, and it's not enough. There's still this emptiness, because through all of these years, you've been avoiding, right?
True.
I feel like you resonate a lot.
I'm going through it right now. Like I'm literally going through it right now where, as an entrepreneur, like it's hard. I'm back in the workforce. Ever since we moved to Las Vegas, I took care of my kids for the first year. My wife worked, and then she hated it. You know what I mean? And I was like, listen, you do not have to stay there. You do not have to stay there. If it's making you miserable, it's obviously making you terribly miserable. Mm-hmm. Leave. And then I'll do what I got to do to make things happen. And you take that time off to kind of find what you really want to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it took another year. So I went back to the workforce for a year, and it was fun. It was fun not having to make decisions, to just go in and work. And now she's back at work, and she works for, weirdly enough, a supplement company, Ghost.
Okay.
And yeah, and now she's full time, and she's the, I want to say the leader of the household again. And I'm taking care of the kids, which is something that I always want to do. But I went from like doing all this work to like not doing really much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I never really even liked the work I was doing. I was just doing it for money. I was doing it to save my family.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'll do it like part-time, and I fucking hate it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate it. It's fun. It's fun because it's creative. Bartender. I'm bartending, mixologist, whatever you want to call it. But it's just not like, this is what I'm doing now is what I want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not what everyone thinks is going to pay bills, is going to direct me this way in the standards of living. But like, I hate being told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly do.
Well, even that though, that comes from not being told what to do. It's a trigger.
Right.
It really is,
Mm,
right? So somewhere along the lines of your life,
my mom. Say it all the time. Tell my therapist all the time.
right? So it's just
Yeah.
all those little things, right? It's
Yeah.
that piece. Have you come to terms with it? Is there healing around it? Are you still triggered by it? Like all of those things, if it's still, creeping up at you, those are the moments where that coming home to you and getting to know yourself and, okay, why is that really bothering you? Right? To a level where, can you release it? And if you can't release it and you're holding on to something, well, what is it? What attachment to that do you have that is holding you back?
Very true. We all know mom, Filipino culture, like she's tough, you know what I mean? And I have to hold myself back, and or obviously do my therapy with my therapist to work on being better in the house, because sometimes even when my wife, who is a micromanager and she knows it, like she'll start micromanaging me, and like it triggers me to the fullest extent to where we have to like compromise a lot. It's not like it's a fight. It's just like, this is I'm still a child, right? And like, you're still my mom. Like, shut the fuck up. And my mom's coming tomorrow too.
That's a thing, right? At least you're kind of like recognizing it, right?
Yes.
Like for me, it was the whole speaking, being able to speak your truth and this and that. And I didn't really know it was a thing really up until like earlier, mid of this year, when I started really diving into more of, why am I the way I am, right? And there's a lot of things that I went through, and something that I'm so proud that I don't do anymore. And during this journey, and I've done it for years and I didn't even know, it was so normal to me, I actually used to self-harm. Every time I couldn't speak my voice, it was like a shameful thing. It was like I would look at myself in the mirror. I was like, what's wrong with you? Like, why can't you speak? It was like this shameful, like, how dare you? Like, just be in a very negative space.
Right.
And then during the healing journey, what really, because I've personally been sexually, I wouldn't say abused, because I don't think it was more like molested, harassed, all that, since I was 5 years old.
Gotcha.
And ever since I was 5 years old, I was told, don't say anything, don't tell anyone, right? I've been told that most of my childhood life, up until even my teenage years. Right? Don't say anything, don't tell anyone. It's between us, right?
Difficult.
And it led on to other relationships, right? Things in the beginning of any relationship is always good, but then when things start to, like, whether it's like ideas don't match, or just, someone wants to do something, maybe you don't want to do it, you start to just submit all the time. You become submissive, right? And I've always been the peacemaker, the caregiver, just my entire life. That's just how I was, and that's how I was literally trained to be like.
Submissive.
So I was always like that. And I always had great intentions. I always had a beautiful, heart and wanting to give and show love and this and that. But I wasn't even realizing how much I was like dimming myself and making myself so small in the process of that.
Right.
So this journey has really allowed me to see all of that, because in a way I've already forgiven, whether it's the people or the situations, the experiences that I had, I already went through that. But the meditation is what, because I had this fear and I had no idea where it was coming from. And meditation really, when I set an intention for that session, I
Right.
was asking, where is this coming from? And through that session, it literally came through. I kept hearing, you know, don't say anything, don't tell anyone. And it was like,
Right.
oh my gosh, like this big realization. And I finally took back my power, if you will,
Right.
So it changed a lot of things, and it strengthened my relationship with almost everyone.
Okay.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's just parts of it.
Right.
When we did our first podcast, it was more related towards like my brother. Right.
Right.
And this one, it was towards like my healing, where it even started. So I don't know if you want to go back to that, or if you had any specific questions that you wanted to ask.
I'm already recording, so this is.
Okay.
We
Okay.
just started going. It was like, wow, this is.
Notice that.
Let's just do it just in case, and let's just roll. We don't need an intro. We do intro after. So like when you talk about meditation with intention, right? A lot of people don't even know what it means to meditate. I know that has really helped you in finding a voice of your own, right? And that's what I got from last time, as well as you just brought it up now. When you say that you meditate with an intention, what does that mean?
To meditate with an intention?
Yeah, like just describe like what are you
So,
doing?
yeah, absolutely. So meditation has been by far my number one tool.
Right.
But now, just in brief, when I say I meditate with an intention, every time I meditate, I set an intention in what I want to feel, what I want to get, a message. So I'm very connected to also to spirit, right? So if an intention, like for example, in that situation where I said, I heard that, the kind of like that inner voice say, don't tell anyone, don't say anything. It
Right.
was my intention for that was, I'm through this meditation, I want to know, like, where is this fear coming from? That was
Right.
my intention for that meditation, right? I wanted to know where this kind of blockage was, right? So being able to sit with myself and just, be breath work obviously helps. That's how I start all my sessions. And then I'm just there. And then it just comes through. And it's not easy. So for anyone that's new to meditation, of course we get all those thoughts, all the stories, the scenarios, things that have happened, things are, you think are going to happen, the groceries, just that, just
Right.
so many things start to pop up. But that's absolutely normal in the beginning, right? It's just like starting anything new. You go work out to try a new fitness program. It's not going to be like you're going to go and you're going to get it everything perfect, right? You
Right.
know this. You see new people coming into like to a gym. You got to start from scratch, right? Body awareness,
Right.
proper form, breathing, all these things before you start, lifting heavier weights or whatever the case may be, right? So it's the same thing. So meditation in the beginning for me was very like it was almost this space where, because I was, grieving my brother's death, it was like that's the only thing that grounded me,
Okay.
where I wouldn't be like crying, I wouldn't be in my headspace somewhere else. And guided meditations for me in the beginning were very, very helpful, because it allowed me to focus on one thing versus letting my mind, go all over the place. But even that, I didn't just go into meditation just because. Everything was led to that, right? So,
Right.
how I previously mentioned, how my brother really connected me spiritually from the spirit world, and he was leading me towards this. So going through grief, and going
Mm-hmm.
through like this instant kind of spiritual awakening happened all at once.
Mm.
So the first week and a bit, I was just destroyed. I didn't sleep. I don't think I probably slept 5 hours all week. Your mind goes all over the place. You're almost in a space of like psychosis,
Yeah.
where it's just your mind is wandering. You're in this deep grief, pain, just this worthlessness kind of feeling, like guilt, just all of that. And then after connecting with my brother in the beginning, um, so this is where, when it comes to like say grief, or if you're going through something really heavy,
Right.
spirit connect usually has a way to connect with others in other ways, to connect with the person, to let them know, like, I can't connect with you right now because you're just so in a really dark space that you're not even
Right.
open at all. I need to do it with someone else.
Right.
And that's how it started leading. The first 3 times, even before I actually immersed myself. Because the first time you think, like, is it a kind of coincidence? Did it really happen? Is it just this once? And then it kept happening, and again, and then again,
Right.
and again. And that's where when it was more so in the beginning, I would say my parents, my brother was a little bit more open because everyone's grieving and all that, but they're not experiencing what I'm experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, they were like, okay, Nubit, you need to calm down, just let him rest in peace. Like, it was becoming overwhelming, right? Because they were, trying to, like, in this process of kind of letting him go, especially in a religious context. Once a person dies, that's it. You don't, you can pray for them, but you would never
Right.
talk to them,
Right.
right? And it's something my mom has been more open to, and her healing journey has been a little bit better than my
Okay.
father's, versus he is very, like, to the books, with his Catholicism. And it's like, you just don't do that. And I'm not going to, I'll pray for my son, but I won't ever speak to him. Right.
Right.
And it's kind of sad because
Right.
there's been so many points in my journey where my brother was asking me, he's like, tell dad
Hmm.
to speak to me, to connect with me. I want to help him. And I would, but he would be very closed off. He's like, I'm not. He would feel like he was betraying,
Right.
the beliefs and all that kind of stuff. Right. So I just, there was just so much healing with everyone, because in connecting with my brother spiritually, that went on for like almost 2 months. There's just so many beautiful things.
Right.
And it got to a point where I was so attached to that as well. So this is the process where I learned how to detach myself.
Okay.
And so I realized that for a while, I started not to get as many connections. So I just, the first week went by, I'm like, second week went by, I started to feel anxious. I started to feel like the same feelings kind of come up again. I started to feel like angry. I
Yeah.
started to all like resentment towards like my brother who already passed. It's like my mind was like, how can you do this to me? Like, you're doing this, you're leaving me again. Like,
Right.
you just connect with me and all of a sudden you're gone. Boo. Like, it was such an awful experience. But that experience, turning against almost myself, I started to get sick.
Hmm.
So I started to lose weight. I started to have like just brain fog. I developed gout. I
Oh
just,
wow.
I started getting skin rashes,
Yeah.
right? So this is the part where I truly understood that if my mind can make me sick,
Right.
my mind can also make me well. Like, the moment I felt rashes on my arms, and I remember very specifically, I was just sitting on the couch, and I was just so like, I was just so bitter. I had this, like, and I'm not like that, right? But I was just, still in that heavy kind of grief, like 2 months later, like feeling like he left me again.
Right.
And I remember just feeling my arm, and I was like, no way. Like, I scared myself. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this to myself. I literally stood up from the couch and just looked up and said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this to myself. I felt like I knew that he was watching me
Right.
like destroy myself. I'm like, enough. It was literally like a whole 360. I said, enough. I watched my brother destroy himself,
Yeah.
and it was hard to watch. And in that moment, I had a glimpse that I was doing the same thing.
Very true. And
So
that
that,
quote,
pardon?
I said that quote that you said, like it's, if my mind could make me sick, my mind could make me better.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's gold. You know what I mean? That mindset is gold.
I actually that I got that. There's so many people that I feel like that say that
Mm-hmm.
it just really sticks with me because it's true. I think the power of the mind is it's intelligent.
Yes.
Like we create our reality, and if we're in the past, if we're in the future, we're actually not living,
Right.
right? Are the days become like just it's just recreating a past in the instant moment,
Right.
right? Because we're not allowing to embrace. There's too much noise, right?
Yes.
So it's that piece has been so healing. So all of that led
Right.
to so much because my dad got sick. His depression got really bad, to the point where I became the caregiver again, but with a different mindset. It
Okay.
wasn't like this obligation. It's like I turned into this almost like this powerhouse. And I remember the night that I went to Vancouver, there was this expo that Matt had for Exponent, and I remember leaving. I had kind of like an argument with my dad because I was seeing how he was just always so down, and I felt like I was almost comparing in that moment. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and yet
Right.
you're doing that, right? And it was just like, and I felt like telling him, like, you remind me of Justin. Like, I wanted to just tell him, like, the way you're behaving is just that, you just can't get out of it. And I just felt so much anger, because of course for me, I'm like, I don't want to lose you too.
Right.
Like, snap out of
Yeah.
it, right? Like, let's do this. I'm trying to help you. And I remember telling my dad, I'm like, just like, look at me in my eyes, look at me and tell me, I don't want your help. And he literally looked at me and said, I don't want your help, my
Ooh.
dad. And that crushed me. I was
Yeah.
so angry. And I was like, I don't care. This is it. I was so bitter. And I remember I was on the plane to Vancouver, and you can watch movies and things like that. So I was scrolling through the movies, and there's one that caught my eye, and it was called The Sun. I don't know if you ever watched
Okay.
it. It's
No.
called The Sun. And then I saw it. I'm like, it looked a little bit. I wanted something a little bit more upbeat kind of thing, and
Right.
I kind of looking, but it kept like sticking in my mind. Then I saw it again. I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm gonna watch it. And after I finished watching the movie, like Matt would have had his headphones on, and he was doing his thing. I was just bawling, and the what do you call it? The the flight attendants, sorry.
Hmm.
The flight attendant, she comes, she's like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" I'm like, and then she's like, "Is this your wife?" To Matt, she's like tapping. He's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" So the movie, if you've never watched it, it I was literally, it's obviously different kind of storyline, but it was still the
Hmm.
same. Like I felt like
Right.
I was watching the story of my brother and my dad.
Oh wow.
Like mental illness,
Yeah.
everything, suicide, like it was intense.
Hmm.
And but to see like the two, spectrums, like, the journey of the son and the journey of the father,
Right.
right? And how they're two different journeys,
Right.
but they're both in their own pain, right? And to see, and I knew this was like, okay, I had to watch this. It's like Spirit was saying, okay, you got to watch this so you have a little bit more of an understanding, especially with what happened to you guys. So at the end, um, the dad and Hugh Hefner, X-Men guy,
Hugh Jackman,
Hugh Jackman, sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
The
Hugh
only guy I
Jackman,
know.
he's the
Sorry.
one that plays the father.
Oh, okay.
And so at the end, just seeing how destroyed he was and the pain that he had after losing a son.
Yeah.
And like, I felt like I was just watching my dad, because the thing is, I never saw my dad cry, even at the funeral.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never saw my dad cry. He was the one who had to be strong. He didn't
Yeah.
show emotion, you know? And I held that moment, made me look at my dad with such compassion and
Yeah.
empathy. Like I saw him in a totally different way. It was like an instant change for me. And then when I got home, my mom, she's in her own headspace. But when I got home, I'm like, where's dad?
Right.
And she's like, oh, he's downstairs. She's like, just leave him alone. You know, he needs his space. I'm like, what do you mean leave him alone? Like, how long has he been down there? He's like, oh, no, he's
Right.
been there for a couple of days. I'm like, couple of days? This is awful. So I
Right.
go downstairs and he's just laying there. And I can tell he hasn't really even been eating. And I just look at him and my heart just, again, this is where this power kind of came over me. And I just like, I'm like, okay, let's get up, right? We need to get up. And he's just telling me like, I'm done. Just leave me here. Like,
Oh.
and it was awful. And I stripped my dad and I literally carried him to the shower and I gave him a bath.
Oh, wow.
And
He was laying down. Like he was done.
he was done. He's
He
like,
quit.
he was quitting. He was
Wow.
done. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not done. Like you have a
Right.
family, you have me, you have mom, you have grandchildren, you have another son. Like you
Right.
need to like shake this out. So I brought him to the shower. I showered him. I shaved him. I cut his hair. I fed him, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna take care of each other. Like I'm gonna be here for you,
Right.
right? And so my dad, going through his healing journey. Oh my gosh! And then my mom, through the stress, she has ruptured ulcers. I had to take it. This was like on
Jeez.
Christmas Day,
Oh my God.
and she's puking out blood. We didn't know what it was. It was like just it looked like Coca-Cola color. And
Right. Oh,
after a while, my
man.
mom really couldn't stand. And I saw like the color. And I asked her to spit in a tissue, and it was just blood. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
911.
Yeah.
So it was like a 2-month span where my healing became like, okay, I needed to kind of take care of a few things before
Right.
I really dove into this journey. But the beautiful thing is that my brother was with me the entire time. It was like he was giving me this strength and this light. It was just amazing. Like
Right.
even every night before I went to bed, like we talked, we spoke, and it was so beautiful. Like when you open your heart and you're just open, you can communicate.
Right.
It's the most beautiful thing, the most beautiful thing. And just so many different ways to receive, signs, and it's very specific and unique to the person as well. So what my experience, of course, is my own, but say your experience, if you were to ever explore this, it's so unique that it's almost like you can't even explain it, because it's you with the connection and the feeling.
Right.
Nobody can experience that but you. Not even the same, not even another person in another country, nothing. It's just you, because it's your soul connection with another spirit, right? You are a spiritual being as well. So it's just such a unique experience. And it's a continuous one. It's a continuous journey. And what really keeps me going is just understanding that we're all
Mhm.
on a journey, right? And the more we push kind of forward, and gratitude was like the number one thing for me. It's even on those days, the heavy days where I had no idea what was happening, all these connections, all of these things were happening. And still that so much pain, but I was like, I have no idea what's happening, but I'm still so grateful for this opportunity because I've always known that something greater was going to happen. I kept telling myself that like every day that something greater was going to happen.
Right.
So it's not easy, that's for sure. But once you get out of that really dark space, you know, that's where that true kind of rebirth happens. If you think about it, even
Yes.
just as a child, right? They're in darkness
Right.
before they come out to the light,
Right.
right? They don't know any different. They're, this beautiful, human being, and they don't know which families are going to be in,
Right.
or what they're going to be doing, what they're going to be exploring.
Right.
So we become conditioned. It's
Conditioned.
a subconscious, right? Is conditioned to the environment, to the people, and to our parents, our upbringing, things we see and hear, and just all of this. And then there comes to a point in life where you go through this darkness, where it's kind of like in that rebirth. You're in this dark phase, and then you're kind of coming out to the light again. It's
Right.
that rebirth process where you come back home to your soul's purpose, right? If something within you is just feeling like this, almost like pressure, suffocation kind of feeling, or this stuck, or just all of that is telling you to come back home.
Hmm.
You're going in a direction where is not leading you where you need to be, where you're meant to be. So this is why we're constantly being pulled back, and we're constantly feeling all the things that we're feeling, call it negativity, the pain, the suffocation, all of that. It's literally an invitation to come back home to your soul. Let's get to know yourself
Yeah.
all over again, right? And that's where again meditation really can ground you, and you can really feel and see and sense, and you just know what you're kind of you're meant to do, right? And it can be something completely different than what you even thought of. So that's where is embracing the unknown piece, right? The control that everybody wants to have for their life, actually resistance
Yeah.
to what is meant for them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And it's very true and honest. Like a lot of times we feel like we have to control this part and this part and this part, but all you're doing is preventing life from actually happening, right?
Mhm.
From happening to you because we're scared. It's scary. And going back to your dad, I can't believe that you found him like that. And he was at that.
Yeah,
How
it was.
hard that must be to see, honestly. Like just to see, it's like your dad, the one who took care of you, the one, the strong one that you said, right?
Mhm.
Didn't even cry, and just to see that is,
I think for any child to see their parent like that, it was really hard. Like, but I felt like, and I know a lot of people have the different views about like how a child doesn't have to like take care of their parent. And it's not about that. It's about a human being.
right. Exactly.
It's a human being suffering. It doesn't matter who they are. You don't just leave them,
Right.
right?
Right.
And it was as hard as it was actually a very beautiful moment at the same time, because it was a pivotal moment in our relationship
Mhm.
where we can kind of, he didn't have to say anything, and I knew that he felt safe.
Right.
That he felt safe, that it was okay to cry, that it was okay to feel.
Hmm.
And my dad, he grew up in that old school, I think he was one of the oldest, and he was belittled, he was beat, he like almost to death, and everything was always his fault. And just his parents didn't treat him or say anything encouraging to
Right.
him,
Right.
and it really breaks a person, right? Because it feels like, I think a lot of it, and I don't know if this is something you can kind of resonate with, but a lot of our self-worth, that at least we think in our most toughest times, is because we feel that if, say, my mom or my dad or the closest people to me didn't value me and uplift me like I should have, that all of a sudden I feel like that I'm defined by that,
Right.
right? And then we get into this way of living, of this kind of, again, this worthlessness or
Yep.
just not enough. Because imagine if an old parent couldn't show you this type of love and support, you know, we come to a space where we acknowledge that love, true love, can only come from within,
Yes.
right? It's that place where if you can't love yourself, and this is something I really hold dearly in my heart, is if you love yourself, say 50%, I'm just throwing out a number, you can only give 50% of that love for others. And this is even including your children,
Right.
right? So imagine just the thought of that, and knowing what, we've gone through, and I'm sorry, and I'm saying we, but it can be a
It's fine.
lot of us.
Yeah,
You can
everybody.
tell we've all had
Whoever's
something,
listening,
right?
someone's resonating to it for
Right?
sure.
But we come to this realization, and it's like, I know what it feels like, right? That's the awareness piece. But awareness can only help you so much until you actually take action, until you actually start practicing it
Right.
yourself, right? And
Yes.
then we teach our children what we never had, and it's to the best of our ability, to the best of our knowledge, to the best of our knowing. And then we hope that they will take that, maybe something that we didn't have, and then they will grow up with what we've taught them.
Right.
And then they're going to grow up, and who knows, maybe there's something along the way that I don't know, that my son might think, my mom did this. I don't know, but I'm
Right.
trying. This is what I know, to the best of my ability,
Exactly.
right? And then he will go through his own journey,
Right.
right? So it's just, I think even just having children has, for me, has been such an eye-opener as well. Because when I see my son go through, because I say my son, I have three, but my older one, he can obviously speak and all that, and
Right.
he's very expressive and emotional. So a lot of the things that I love to take into consideration is, if he goes through like a little kind of like, well, I don't want to say temper tantrum, but just an emotional response. Or my son, when he gets emotional,
Right.
he actually gets like angry because he doesn't know how to regulate his emotions yet, right? And
Right.
he'll yell, and then he yells to as like a defense mechanism, right?
Yeah.
To be
Yeah.
like, stop, or just, and in that moment, what I've learned is not to allow him to have an emotional imprint.
Hmm.
So what I mean by that
Hmm.
is, if I'm allowing him to express himself the way he's expressing himself in the moment,
Right.
but I don't allow him to go to bed that way.
Right.
So I let him go through his thing, and then I express the love. I
Right.
express that he's safe. I express all of these things as a mother. I want him to know that even if he is like that in that moment, that he's still loved, that I'm still here for him.
Right.
And like 10 times out of 10, it's for us, it's worked, where he will just crumble and he feels safe again. And we'll talk about whatever it is that we talked about. If I was at fault, or um I will say,
Right.
and say that. And I think that it's like our first type generation in parenting, where I feel like I don't, my parents never apologized about
No
anything. I feel
way.
like I got my ass whooped
Once,
how
maybe.
many times. And apart from that, if I ever mention it, they'll be like, I never did that.
Right, right. They don't remember. They don't
Oh
remember.
gosh.
Yeah,
But it's
it's
just,
true.
I think that's just so important for, this is where that lead by example kind of comes in, right? If you want others, say, to like respect you, you got to respect yourself.
Right,
And how you treat yourself and how you speak and how you conduct yourself is just a reflection of how people are going to see you, and then how people are going to treat you. And if people don't treat you well, then you can start to allow people that are going to be good for your life and not.
right,
So it's just this whole um journey has been just so beautiful, because now I'm able to share with others. I'm able to allow others to express and not feel like they're alone. Mental health, mental illness is real, and it's simply, I'm not even gonna say simply. It's because, in my perspective, is we're not we don't feel safe to actually share and speak, and without the fear of being like judged, right? And
absolutely.
we stay silent. We stay
Yep.
silent. And that easily could have been me. That easily could have been me when I went through my experience and be shut down by everybody. But it's the beautiful part is that my brother is like, he knew
Right,
that that was going to happen. He had everything in place for me to make sure that I was going to be safe with my experiences, that I was going to be heard, and I was going to be led by teachers. So I had two spiritual teachers that I didn't even, they just came to me. It was just so beautiful in that respect. And one of them was an indigenous medium who is still guiding me, and the other one is actually just from my hometown. That was also, he's a spiritual mentor as well. And everything just lined up. And the reason for the first indigenous medium, I connected with him because my brother connected with him
right.
during
I
a
remember that
session.
one.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So it was just, once I knew that, I felt okay. I felt safe. Like it's almost like that term, I found my tribe in a way, right?
Right.
And that really guided me to at least be able to express what I was going through, because I think for the first, I don't know, 4 months, it was tough to share anything, especially with, Matt, my husband, and because there was no understanding, right? You can just tell when you speak to somebody, their energy, right? And if are they engaged, are they not? So it's like I didn't want to, waste my energy trying to, make someone understand or listen or know. I know nobody would know what I'm going through because it's my own experience, but just to have that type of level of understanding, like none of that was there because there was so much fear, right, on his, behalf. But to see the transformation, like firsthand, like, Matt is, I see him now, and I can tell just by the way he's, behaving and speaking, that he's like, I want a little bit of what you have.
Hmm.
And because he's become more open,
Right.
the emotions that are starting to arise, the different mind switch, right? Because again, it's that fear
Right.
when we're doing things, and going back to being an entrepreneur, you know, I think there's this kind of level of um kind of like this vision that that's the only way. You know what I mean? Like, becoming an entrepreneur is like, I tell myself what to do, right? Kind of like what you said in the beginning.
Right.
But you make the calls, you do what you
Right.
want, and all these things. But then it's is it what you're doing? Is it still aligning with your core true values?
Right.
Right? Are
Right.
you doing it just to make money? Are you doing it to just bypass whatever it is that's going inside? Like what is it? Like what is your actual intention, and is it aligning with you?
Right.
Because if it's not, it's going to be haunting you, like literally for the rest of your life
Forever.
until, and some people will die and not, and still being in that escape mode,
Yep.
right? And it's so important for people to really understand that, as I know this stuff can sometimes be like, this woo stuff, and but it's not. I feel like a lot of people are starting to come back home to themselves, because we all have this feeling.
Right.
All of us have this feeling inside of us where we're like, something is not being nurtured. It's like you feel it. And I think that piece, it's that crucial decision where we say, F it. I'm going all in. Like, I don't know what the hell is going to happen,
Right.
but I'm doing it.
Right.
I don't know how many walls I'm going to hit, but I'm
Nope.
going to go through them anyway. Like, right?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
it's that's that big mindset switch, because you realize that we're here for not a very long time.
Yeah.
And what we do with every moment counts, and there's this moment, that a learning lesson for me. I was driving with my son, and there was like a homeless, and I've always loved, giving. I don't judge, I don't question, and I, this homeless man, comes up, how they stand on the streets,
Hmm.
right? By the, like, the stoplight. And I'm like, I didn't have, like, I was literally looking, I'm like, I didn't have any change or anything like that. Or I was even looking for food, because I always like to give food if I have food too.
Right.
And I couldn't find it. And my son, like, finds something. He's like, I had there's 50 cents, right? And in my heart, I'm like, Damien, I'm like, 50 cents? I'm like, I'm not gonna give him 50 cents. Like, I felt like like almost embarrassed, like, I'm gonna
Hmm.
give this guy 50 cents. And he's like, no, mama, give it to him. It's okay. I'm like, he needs it. I'm like,
Right.
I rolled down the window, and in my head, I literally put it on my son. I'm like, this is from my son. Right? I'm like, this is from my son. And my son was like just looking out the window. And
Hmm.
then they kind of just make eye contact. And the guy looks at me. He's like, you have a good son.
Hmm.
Like, and in my head, like, my ego came in the way.
Right.
Right? And, I'm seeing this little 7-year-old boy showing this level of compassion and just love, where it's any little bit counts.
Right. He's giving.
Just
Doesn't
giving.
matter.
Right? So I'm like, God, Damien, you're like always, giving me these little nuggets.
Yeah.
But it's it's just amazing to see when we can nurture, it's our offspring, right? When we can
Eh,
nurture, it's to see, like, it's not about like what I could have been, even, or the
right.
things that I could have done growing up if I was like raised like that. Like, I needed to go through all of that. I needed to go through all those challenges. You know, when I
Yeah.
look at my daughter, I see what happened to me when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
And like, I can be there for you. And then I may not always be able to protect you, but I can talk to you. I can tell you, like, my mom never spoke to me about sex or anything like
Right.
that. It was taboo. It's like, even my
Right.
period, for
Right.
God's sakes. Like, I
Mm.
thought I was dying when I got it the first time,
Jesus.
right?
No.
And it was just, no one spoke about that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So it was, now that I can, share with my kids and talk to them like little adults, and it's been great, and I understand, right? And that's why, no matter what anyone is going through, it's exactly what they were meant to go through, exactly what they're going through at that moment. It is for a divine purpose. And
Right.
even if you feel like you're not delivering, the people around you are also learning from your experience.
Right.
you know and it's not even, I'm not going to say it was a concept. No, it's not. It's so pure, and it's so loving that we're when you go through this journey, you honestly don't see we're all connected,
Right.
all of us.
All of us.
We're all connected. And for us, especially with everything that's going around the world right now, if we don't take care and nourish ourselves and be that light, we're just falling into the same darkness and fear as everyone else.
Right.
Right. And there's so much that I can say, in terms of what I know and my beliefs of like what's happening around the world, but even just our health, like even just think about our health. Like
Yeah.
we are in charge of our health,
Right.
right?
Right.
No government, no pharma, no nothing.
No.
We need to exercise. We need to nourish ourselves. We need to go outside. We need to eat well. No, if you can't pronounce something, don't eat it. As
Right.
simple as that, right? I think we really, truly need to understand what is actually nourishing our body. Because if we actually want to be, if someone is in a space where they want to start to embrace, for example, their spirituality, our nutrition, our water intake, all of that plays a big role, right? Everything
Absolutely.
is connected. So you start to think, if what I'm eating right now, is it nourishing me or am I going to feel like crap later?
Right.
Right. So, and I know in moments, obviously every situation is different. You gotta, if you're in survival mode, I get it. But if what you're eating if there's certain thing that's the only choice that you have, well, what else are you doing? How are you, your mindset wise, what are you doing to propel yourself forward?
Right.
Right? There's just so many elements. And then as you start to strengthen one area, say like, we got mind, body, spirit, we start to slowly balance the three and
Hmm.
we create this alignment. So we got to those are the questions that we need to ask. Physically, are you good? Mentally, are you good? Spiritually, are you good? Right. And I feel like the spiritual side of things, a lot of people neglect because, again, even that sense of fear, right? It's
Right.
this unknown piece, right? And that unknown piece is, like you said, it can be scary. It
Yeah.
can be scary because you will see things, you will go through journeys and feel things that you've probably never wanted to feel, the pain, the extreme sadness,
Yeah.
the anger, like all of that, all of these feelings and emotions are actually, they're not a bad thing. It's just how are you allowing it to navigate your life?
Right.
Right? Anger, for example, can be a great motivator, but are you leading with love, even though
Right.
it's your anger,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because when you rescue yourself with love, you will find the peace that you're looking for. You will find the joy that you're looking for.
Right.
You can't go into happiness or want happiness and use anger with anger.
Right.
It just doesn't, they don't, it's just a constant clash.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So that piece of knowing that even if life has shown you that love is not real, even
Right.
that alone is this big illusion because we are come from love.
Right.
We are love. And that's hard. That's a really big one for a lot of people. I find I was, I'm grateful that even though I went through all the things, I feel like I did have love and I always had this level of understanding, um, and this compassion
Right.
towards the, like, my parents, because I always saw them in a light that I always known that they went through something, right? And they did whatever they could. But if I didn't have that mentality, I don't even know where that mentality came from. But I honestly, we, I was just thinking about this the other day. we all have like this one movie or this one song that at a point of our life when we were young that
Right.
kind of just gave us this kind of motivation, right? Because if you were like not in a good family setting, but then, for me, it was like I watched Rocky. I was
Right.
like 7 years old when I watched Rocky for the first time. And I'm like, he didn't even have like a good family. He was this, he was that, da 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 da. And look at what he did just because
Right.
he believed in himself. Right. So I'm like, I'm gonna do it too.
Right.
Right. So it's just something like that, how it can just switch, right? The
Yes.
mindset
Yeah.
of things. And this there's so much that we can talk about when it comes to just how our mind is just so it's it's programmed. We have this, it's like this incredible machine inside,
Right.
right? And you can decide, when things come up for you that don't make you feel good, it takes this level of courage and strength to be like, you don't belong here,
Right.
and just let it pass through. Because it happens. It
Yep.
happens. I think, I don't know if I spoke about this the last time, but I remember during that phase of when I was really in depth with my meditation and the healing, because that is really what grounded me. And I have this little prayer that I say right before I do anything. And it's very simple. Just, whether I say a greater God, please guide me with love, light, and protection, or this session with love, light, and protection. And there was a couple times where I actually forgot to say it. And I can actually not only hear, but see this sense of like fear and like almost this
Hmm.
evilness, where it literally shocked my body. It was like I got scared. Like I actually got scared. And because I was in such a deep meditation, I didn't want to come out of it. And I just, in that moment,
Mhm.
I just said my little prayer, and it was like boom, gone. And I was
Right.
like back to it. So this is where this level of understanding is, if you're in a space where you do have this heaviness, you become like this target,
Yeah.
right? Where this, call it an evil entity, those they call it, when people say the inner demons,
Right.
it's they know how to trick you and to persuade you and say all these things. And then you are now in this like, you know,
Right. It's the same thing. It's just, but a
yes,
completely different.
yes,
Not you. It's like not an
yes.
alter ego, but it's just a different emotion taking over, and you're
Mhm.
allowing that to. Usually it's anger, hate. You know, um, revenge, whatever it is. But like you said before, it's a way of releasing our emotion. But where's the intent of that? Right? You
Mhm.
can be angry. That's fine. It's a normal emotion. But is it to be angry in order to hate and get back, or is it being angry because you love something so deeply that it's making you mad? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it makes a lot of sense when you said that. Now, I like you had a checklist. It's like maybe 10 minutes ago, but your checklist of is your physical health good, mental health, and spiritual health. Something that should just be like the checklist. Why do we
Mhm.
need 1,000 things a day? It's like 1, 2, 3. Good? No.
Exactly.
One's missing. Work on that one thing today. Made a lot of
Exactly.
sense. Made a lot of sense.
That's I love the way you said it like that, like a checklist,
Yeah.
because it's true. And I find like, if even at the end of the day, so this is something that I love, that I do myself, and I always, anyone that I work with, I always tell them to do this. No matter how your day went, whether it's good, whether it's not so good, or whatever happened, right? Always go to bed
Hmm.
expressing gratitude.
Yes.
Always. Always. Even if it's like 5 minutes, even before you even enter your bedroom, because you don't want to bring that energy with you, right?
Truth.
Because
Mm,
If you know the subconscious mind, it never sleeps,
right.
never sleeps. So if you can tell yourself, in a moment of gratitude, you're already inviting love, and you're creating a safe space for yourself. And even being grateful, even though today didn't go the way I thought it would, I'm still grateful that I'm still here, that I'm still living, and that you have a family, you just all the little things that you can still that you ate today,
Right.
all these things that you can just be grateful for.
Right.
And just as I close my eyes, let me have a restful, peaceful sleep.
Right.
So if I do wake up in the morning, I can try again.
Right.
And that is actually setting the tone so that as you sleep, you are already putting yourself in a healing, like 8 hours of healing
Hmm.
without you even really trying.
Right.
So if someone is this is something I've said to, especially those who are really having a hard time. If you're someone who can't tell yourself, like, the all I am statements, and I think that's a hard one too, because
Yeah.
if you don't feel like, I love myself, or I am strong, or I am this, or I am that,
Right.
to a lot of people that can be triggering itself. Like,
Right.
and but it's if you're in that state, it just again allows for reflection, because if you don't feel like that, okay, well, why not? And then you go into like the digging, you peeling the layers and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's like a little bit something different. But what I do like to encourage is, because your subconscious mind doesn't rest, even listening to, because if you like, YouTube and all these have so many different things, but you can do like a sleep one where it'll tell you all these beautiful things, and you can be listening to them as you sleep. So your brain will start to rewire itself without really, you know, doing the full work, but it will start to invite this kind of switch in you. So even throughout the day, you might start to feel a little different, or you might respond a little different to something. And you start to feel and notice the change. But until you actually take action, I mean, you're going to be constantly repeating yourself. And it's just realizing, if I'm so uncomfortable with how I'm feeling, I'm ready to do whatever it takes to not feel like this anymore. It's a journey. I say that it's the toughest yet the most rewarding journey I'll ever take.
Everything you're saying is it just. I don't want to say I don't like using the word resonates because I don't. I mean, I like using the word resonates, but I overuse the word resonates. But it's the only thing that makes sense. It's like
Mm.
because it just makes sense to me. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of people that are afraid and or avoid accepting the fact that this makes sense to them, but it's not the norm. It's not they're conditioned, right? You
Mhm.
said that before, where we kind of condition our kids, right? Our kids are no one right now. They're trying to figure out who they are, and obviously, little by little, they're conditioned to be this person. And then at some point, they find out who they are. And there's
Mhm.
so many people that don't even go past their conditioning. They don't even give it a shot to
Mhm.
try to find out who they actually are, or accept the things that happen to them, and that maybe there is a reason or a purpose of why this is happening to you,
Mhm.
versus why is this.
Mhm.
And man, there's so many things that I want to say to you when you're doing it, but you just kept like that's why I always just go right, right, because every word right. That's all I say all the time. Right, right, because every word that's in my head, you say it 5 seconds later. It's almost like I don't have to continue. I don't have to say
Mhm.
anything because just you're just saying the right words. So I just go, yeah, yeah, right, right.
Yeah, even that, when, it makes sense, it's it's because it's a feeling that your body, remembers,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
So So that's the word resonates and now makes sense.
Yeah.
It's simply because you've been thinking it, you've felt it, and it's so when you hear it, it's like, your body, goes into this type of builds this emotion, right?
Yeah.
So even that is just truly a way to even just tell you that, you know, no matter what it is that you're going through tonight, and I can say this, with such a pure heart and just so much love, because I know it's just not only just from my experience, but just there's so many beautiful stories. It's exactly, there is no mistake.
Right.
Absolutely no mistake. It's just part of the plan, right? And what
Right.
really kind of pushes me a little bit even forward is it's like our life, because there's just this unfolding that's happening. When we do let go of that control, we're allowing things to just unfold right before our eyes without even trying. And it's knowing that's because I'm actually now doing what I've never really done before. I'm now in a position where I am just allowing myself to go through this, to trip, to fall, but keep going forward, and to know it's almost it truly excites me. Even if I'm going through a struggle, I'm like, I always remind myself it's for something. It's for
Right.
something. I'm going to learn from this. Someone's going to learn from this. My kids, my husband, the neighbor, whatever the case may be. Someone is learning from something from this. And because again, we're all so interconnected, it's it makes it fun. If you think of it even as Super Mario's.
Yes.
We've all played that when we were kids,
Absolutely.
right? You got to think of it almost like this game that we play. You have ones that have played the game so much that they just know what to do. They know where to
Right.
go. They know all the secret, pathways to go to level 3, right? And meanwhile, you're still in level 1, falling, getting eaten, or whatever the case may
Right.
be. But if you have someone help you and maybe tell you, hey, why don't you try this way or go this way, or if it's up to you, are you going to listen? Are you going to let your ego go in the way? Like, if someone who's already kind of done it, let them help you and guide you, like what it is that you need to do, right?
Right.
Or are you just going to, you can go through the journey. At the end of the day, the princess is still there,
Right.
whether it takes you a year to get there, or a month to get there, or a week to get there, right?
Yes.
It's still at the end. There's that end goal. And however you decide to take it, are you going to get, receive that helping hand to get you there a little bit faster, right? And
Right.
it becomes like this game that we
Yeah.
play. And the moment we allow ourselves to just release and not allow our ego to get in the way of this process and this journey, because as soon as we do that, we're literally just taking a step back, and we're
Right.
taking a step back and a little bit further from where we need to go.
Yes.
So it's I can say this now, I wouldn't change anything.
Hmm.
And that's even including my brother.
Right.
This, I was able to rebuild a relationship with him. I got to know him in such a different and deeper level. Like, I got to know him for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this is because I connect with spirit, and it's so unique because when a person dies, they come back to their unique, beautiful soul being. Even if they made like a bunch of mistakes, even if they hurt people or whatever it is that they did when they were living, they come back to their whole spiritual essence, their spirit. and they recognize, they know, they see that they have hurt others, that they did the things that they did, and they try to communicate, they try to like lead the way, but they can't if we don't open ourselves up, right?
Right.
And that is where, for us journeying, we can make things right if we can just create this space and understanding that, once, you die, that's it. Now you're watching, it's like from a different level. They're watching now the show.
Right.
What are you going to do next?
Right.
Even though I messed up, right?
Truth.
And so that just in itself has just really allowed me to see in a different level, because I'm personally leaning more into like mediumship, because it's just becoming just so part of me, and I've helped so many people that I can feel a person's energy and their care, that they can be, humorous. I can even feel if they loved dancing or whatever it is. Like I can feel it. I can even see it. And in most cases, I think a lot of, and now I'm kind of going in a different direction, but even when it comes to death, a lot of times people feel that there was a lot of suffering,
Right.
especially depending on, if you're dying, if you're sick or you're not, or there's certain things that have happened to a person. Everyone wants to feel like they had they don't want a person to like suffer.
Right. Correct.
But just through the experiences that I've gone through, there's this level of kind of protection even from other spirits, so that you're not alone
Hmm.
before you transition. And that was such a unique experience for myself, because whether it's this my parents, and I've had other cases where others have died and they weren't alone. It's like, if a recent interaction with one of my clients is when her brother died and didn't really lead the best life, but I knew that when he did die, that his mother was right there with him, right, to take him home.
Right.
Right, so he wasn't alone. So in those last little bits, he was, like, guarded, because even though your body's there, it's when you're, like, your spirit's now coming out,
Yeah.
right? So there's just that's, like, a whole different topic when it comes to, like,
Right.
that type of spirit stuff, and, um,
Well,
being a medium,
definitely.
just understanding the different levels, different stages.
Well, I'm very interested in that. That's something we can definitely
Yeah,
do.
no, we can
Definitely.
definitely
If you want to
do
go there, like I'm 100% open to listening, only because I kind of feel
episode 3.
yep, I'm cool with that. Episode 3 is perfectly fine, because it's going to definitely take a while for people to understand that one. But it's very interesting to me, whether it's a fear of it, whether
Mhm.
it's maybe you do have that energy and understand. Like, I'm a feeler too. I understand. And I know for a fact that I've seen, felt, heard, been with other
Mm.
beings other than, I even want to say spirits, right? See,
Yeah.
I don't want to say, because I don't want to sound like that, but it's true.
But even that though, like even how you're expressing it,
Yeah.
again, like you're saying, it's coming. I just got a little comfortable. It's again, it's coming from a place of fear and also a place of judgment,
Yes.
because it's so true. This is why I'm passionate about this side of things, is because there is that level of, when you don't know something, or if someone's going through something, you don't know the experience, right? But
Right.
we all have the capability to connect. We
Right.
all have this. I'm sure, almost even anyone hearing me say this, you've already experienced something at some level, that you have yourself, you pushed it to the side as being nothing, or it was a coincidence, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all had something,
100%.
right? So the more we block it out, we won't experience that side. And not everybody will. And that's okay too. This was a lifetime that you weren't going to open yourself and experience that.
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So when this part, when opening yourself up to your spiritual self and spirituality and wanting to embrace it, you are entering a space where you will feel different. You will see different. You will hear different. And that is very powerful. And I do feel that even though there's this level of, collective consciousness that it is rising, we still have to ensure that we're being authentic and true, because we're not fooling anybody,
Truth.
right? You can, I don't even how you speak or how you seem, on the outside, it's yourself, right?
Yep.
You're only fooling yourself. So I think just being honest, really honest with ourselves is so important, because I think that piece alone is very healing. Because then once we admit, even if we've made a mistake, even if we've done something in the past that was very harmful to someone or whatever the case may be, it's accepting that and owning that as part of your experience,
Right.
right?
Very true.
And moving forward with that, with
Yeah.
this, and you build that level of grace.
Right.
Because when you go through that journey, no matter what anybody thinks, no matter what anybody says, like, all of a sudden you're this spiritual guy, whatever you did in the past didn't matter. So again, that's other people's projections, right? So that's where this level of strength comes in, because once you know yourself, once you stand for yourself, and you
Yes.
have that level of, love and strength that you have found, and you know how hard it is to go through that path. Once you're in that space, doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't.
Nope. Not one bit. Not
So
one bit.
it's I'm so happy that I was
Cool.
able to share. I think I don't know if we were kind of all over the place
No,
today, but I think
always, it's
that's the
fine.
point of conversation.
That's the best. It's really just
Mhm.
talking. But actually, I do have to go. I got to pick my
Yeah,
kids up
yeah,
from
no, it's
camp.
okay. I
That's
got
okay. No, it's okay.
Hey, look at the time.
But I'm good. I'm good. I'm
No, but look
gonna.
at the time.
I
Oh, wait,
know.
it's not on your side. It's on my side.
Yeah,
Never mind.
11:22.
2:22.
Easily, it's fine. I'm good at it. Um,
Okay.
what was I gonna say? Definitely. I'll definitely do. I can't wait to do part 3 because I'm just gonna let you talk and like I'm gonna ask, like literally ask questions that I've wanted to
Honestly,
ask people.
prepare them. We can,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, we can
Yeah.
we can discuss it. There's so much. And then as I'm also learning, I've been
Yeah.
picking my mentor's brain a lot. And I think because everyone is in their own journey and
Yes.
what we're going through, even just today just before we go, just to
Yeah.
kind of spice things up for next time. But I actually messaged my mentor today, and I asked, I'm like, and for me, I like to call them earthly problems,
Hmm.
and I'm like, whenever I immerse myself in doing that, it's like I know part of the ego comes in, and I go back and forth with the two, because you have this notion where you still have to work, you still have to make money, you still have to
Right.
do things, right? So it's mixing. So mixing the two has been like, I wouldn't say hard, but I'm learning how to intertwine the two, right?
Hmm.
So I asked them, and every time I go through these earthly problems, I find that I disconnect.
Hmm.
And so it has made it harder for me to connect to spirit, to connect with myself. And because now it's like I've come out of that space, and I have to kind of bring myself back home. So I asked, I'm like, you know, do you experience this? Someone who's actually, he's been doing this for pretty much since he was a kid is when it first started for him, but it wasn't until he was an adult where it's like, okay, this is the path that you're taking. But when we go through these transitions during parts of our life, we feel that we do become disconnected. And then how do we find ourselves? So now I've learned myself that when I'm disconnected, I need to go back to nurturing myself again.
Okay.
And that's a really important piece. And I feel like when you have that level of awareness, you can navigate life in a much smoother way. And that goes by just being able to connect with your own spirit. So spirit is not just the spirit of the dead. You are a
Right.
spiritual being. You are a
Right.
spirit. So when you connect with your spirit, it'll guide you. And this is the
Mm.
beauty. And this is the conversation that I love to have with you next time, is that when you connect with your spirit will actually tell you exactly what you need to hear. It won't give you all the solutions,
Right.
but it'll tell you the truth.
Yes.
And it's a truth that you may be avoiding, maybe you've known, but it'll tell you in your face, in your heart. It's going to tell you in your heart.
Right.
And what you do moving forward, then it's up to you. But that's where you go into the space where I know what I need to do, but why is it stopping me from doing it? Right.
Right.
So
Right.
anyway, it's a whole different topic, but it was such a pleasure connecting with you. Um,
Absolutely.
it's just I love being open, and this is me,
Right.
and yeah, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be here and connect with
Absolutely. I'm so happy that you always, connect and we always can do this. And we'll definitely do another one. I have no absolutely, it just keeps going. Like the more we speak, the more like it's like another door opens, it's like, oh, that was it. Okay, well, let's talk about this one. Oh, here's another door that I definitely want to talk about. And I haven't talked about with anyone, maybe with my brother, right? Or my mom, because my mom is also the same, so
Yeah,
it's very, very interesting. And I want to definitely, I'm going to prepare for that one.
absolutely. Ask me anything, because
Yeah.
I think that I know you gotta go, but I think that's the biggest goal even for
Don't be late.
me
It's fine. No, I'm just kidding.
is is just like you said, we have this one person or another person that we can kind of open ourselves up. It's like, hey, can I tell you something? I'm like, you felt it too, you heard that too. And then you go into this, you know what I mean? And then you
Yes.
find that one person that you're like, okay, I can be a little crazy with you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But we're all like this. We're
Right.
all had these experiences, but it's like we're all walking with this like
Yeah.
invisible bubble to be like, I went through the experience, and another
Right.
person like, I went through this experience too, and I went,
Right.
you know what I mean? So we're all kind of
Yeah.
like, so connected, but we're
You're
like so
looking for
blind.
connection. Right. It's like you're connected, but you're looking for connection. It's like you just want to be not judged, right? And then accepted. And that's what
Yeah,
you said before. So it's very interesting.
yeah.
So
So prepare for that one.
yeah, I'm in. I'm in. But thank you so much
Alrighty.
for coming out. I appreciate it. Anything else you want to say to anyone while you are signing off?
The only thing I can say, and again, I speak from the heart, is no matter whatever it is that you're going through, it can be good, it can be, not so good, is again that level of gratitude, and just be grateful for where you're at, because you're going to look at this very moment and realize why exactly you went through that, and why you felt like that, and why it eventually will propel you to be the person you're meant to be. So,
You can always tell when you're speaking from the heart because you close your eyes.
mhm,
Like I don't know if you even noticed that, but you can see how like the calm happens when you say
mhm,
something very sincere, very heartfelt. And I want to thank you for that and always
mhm.
being on the podcast. And I can't wait till next time. So
Likewise.
till
Okay.
next time, have a great day, guys.
Take care. Bye.